Fact of the matter is that Pakistan was created by the British because if you look at Churchill's letters, if you look at British policy makers, if you go to the archives and see, the perception was that Hindus, quote unquote, the Hindu people, that is people of the Hindu faith, are not reliable. They are anti-Western, they're anti-white, they are, troublemakers, they are liars, they are not straightforward people. I mean, Churchill himself has made some very pleasant adjectives about what he called the Hindo, the Hindu. So they did not want, they wanted, but they felt the Muslims were more reliable, more friendly, etc. throughout the Middle East and all that. So creating a Muslim country in that area of the Middle East, Central Asia, etc. was very important. And therefore, strategically, the British were very influential in ensuring that divisions created were made bigger, and they created Pakistan. Since then, the Americans have always supported the British position with Pakistan on, for example, Kashmir. Pakistan said that Kashmir should belong to Pakistan because it is Muslim majority. Our point was that India is not a Hindu state. It's a secular state. You have a state in India called Nagaland, which is Christian majority. We are not going to allow it to become like East Timor, an independent country, because it is Christian. We are not going to allow Kashmir because we are not just a Hindu people. We are an Indian, and we believe in all faiths working together. In fact, if you Google something, you'll find INDUTVA, Hindutva. That's a concept of which I wrote about, which says that Indian culture is a compound of the Western, the Mughal, and the Vedic. That is a Hindu, Christian, and Muslim. So, on Kashmir, the US has consistently tried to pressurize India to give up Kashmir. On every issue, US has tried to consistently pressurize India in favor of Pakistan. So the result actually was that there was no option of joining the US. The US said in 1962, after the Chinese attack, 1963, Nehru was so panicky he wanted an alliance with the US. He cried and he almost begged the United States for an alliance. There are certain letters of Nehru which are begging letters. Even a beggar will not write such terrible language as he wrote to President Kennedy. But what happened? President Kennedy sent an emissary, and the emissary said, first you give up Kashmir, and then we will talk about arms and all that. You surrender Kashmir. So it didn't work. Clinton, after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1992, there was a very good opportunity for India and the US to come together. Prime Minister Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister at that time. I knew him very well. I was extremely close to him. We had a lot of interaction with each other on many, many concepts. He was very keen on an alliance with the United States. I know that personally. Clinton said, fine, but give up Kashmir, and then we'll talk about an alliance. Give up your nuclear weapons. Give up your missiles. I mean, what Taiwan did, they told Taiwan, give up your nuclear weapons, give up your missiles, give up everything. Of course, you people did it, we did not do it. That's the difference. So, I mean, you tell us to completely disarm and be at your mercy, and then you say you'll be a friend. That's not a friendship. That's not friendship. So far the Soviet Union is concerned, sir. Today, there are, I think about 700 military exercises have taken place between India and the United States in the last 10 years. 700. The largest number of military exercises in any country in the world is done by the United States with China. Because of our mountain warfare capacity, because of our counter-terrorism capacity, because of our jungle warfare capacity, the Americans are desperate to learn. And our pilots have been having war games with them, and usually our pilots win or beat them in their war games. So they're very keen on joint naval, air and other exercises with us. Not one Soviet soldier has ever been positioned in India. So when the Americans say that we were a Soviet ally, they are frankly telling a lie. They are telling a Goebbelsian lie, because not one Soviet soldier was ever posted in India. Not once did we participate in any Soviet military campaign. There was absolutely, we bought Soviet equipment because Americans would not give us equipment. We had to buy Soviet equipment. But we never allowed the Soviet Union to come to India. They had no joint campaigns, no military exercises. And we opposed them in many theatres, including Afghanistan. So this concept that India was a Soviet ally, and we rejected the US and came to India. The US wanted us to come as a servant, as a slave. We were not ready to go. We were ready to go as a maybe younger brother or junior partner, but not as a slave or as a servant. So that kind of condition was unacceptable to us. And I have my differences with Pandit Nehru and his, but I think on that, I think Pandit Nehru was right. He would not accept the status of a slave, which is the status the Americans wanted us to have. No missiles, no atomic weapons, no high technology, no Kashmir. You come to us like that. Very absurd. So, coming back to Hillary Clinton, I mean, like I said, beautiful language, but she has been blocking high technology exports to India. She has been blocking space cooperation. Even today, our atomic scientists cannot go to America. There is a visa ban on them. Even today, many Indian scientists are refused permission to go to the United States because we've got a visa ban. And so many other instances in which they are trying to create problems for us in our high technology. Hillary Clinton again wants India to be low tech, no atomic weapons, no missiles, no rockets. She doesn't feel Indians as a people should do this kind of thing. These are not toys. These are grown men's weapons. And little children like India should not handle that. So, frankly, you don't go by the language of Hillary Clinton. The State Department is very negative on transfer of technology to India. The State Department is very negative on giving a visa to Indian scientists. It has played an extremely negative role. Under the previous Commerce Secretary also, even the Commerce Department under Bush also was negative. But today Commerce is slightly better. But for Hillary Clinton, India-US cooperation is one way. India listens to the US. India buys from the US. India depends on the US. It's an entirely one-way cooperation. And any decent relationship has to be two-way. You cannot have it one way. Okay, maybe it is 60-40. That is the boundary. It cannot be 95-5. For Mrs. Clinton, 95-5 is an acceptable level of cooperation. So it's not acceptable, I think, to the Indian people. The government, sometimes there are people in the government who are ready to accept it. But there has been strong public pressure, and they were blocked from accepting it, frankly. Because we will not accept that kind of an unequal relationship. If you remember, the Chinese have talked, even today the Chinese talk about unequal treaties. Nearly, 80, 90 years have gone by, but they still in their mind unequal treaties. The US even today wants us to sign unequal treaties, in which we concede, we sacrifice, and they gain. So we are not prepared for that, quite frankly. So I would not agree with you, sir, that we had an option. Till today, we do not have an option of an honorable partnership with the United States. We don't have an option of honorable partnership with China also. The Chinese also are not ready to give us an honorable partnership. We want an equal, honorable partnership. As you said, we are a billion people, 1.25 billion. We have our own strong culture. We have our own traditions. We may be having not much money, but we have a certain amount of pride, and if I may say so, even arrogance. And even when we were very, very poor, we were proud and arrogant. If you remember, India gave money to Nelson Mandela's ANC right from the 1950s. India gave money to the PLO from the 1950s. India has been supporting all kinds of steps. We are very friendly with Cuba. Even today, our Prime Minister went from the United States, I think recently, one top VIP visit, I think the Prime Minister, from America he went straight to Cuba and went off. So, I frankly, please don't be under the impression there is no option. An option is only a fair option. Till today, we have not been given a fair option of a partnership with either China or the United States.